Good afternoon. Welcome to This Week in Turkey. Turkish officials have expressed their support for Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro after Washington recognized opposition leader Juan Guaido as interim president.
Speaking on Thursday, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that Turkey is against all undemocratic interventions wherever they may be. Presidential spokesman İbrahim Kalın also said on Twitter that Erdogan called Maduro early Thursday to voice his support for the Venezuelan president. Brother Maduro, stand tall. We are with you, Erdogan told President Nicolas Maduro on the phone, Kalın said on Twitter. Kalın said Turkey stood against any sort of coup attempt and shared the We Are Maduro hashtag in his tweets. According to The Independent, of the 137,000 tweets using the hashtag We Are Maduro, more than half were in Turkish, while less than a third were in Spanish. Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu also blasted the United States for its intervention in Venezuelan politics. Unfortunately, recently the US and some Latin American countries have repeatedly intervened in the internal affairs of Venezuela, Çavuşoğlu said. Ankara and Caracas are separated by 10,000 kilometers, but recently they have been developing increasingly close ties. After a flurry of bilateral visits, trade between the two countries has soared, and President Erdogan and Nicolas Maduro, united by their suspicion of the West, appear to get along well. The two leaders became close in 2016 during an energy conference in Istanbul. Like Russia and Iran, Turkey also has significant economic ties to Venezuela, which since last year began using Turkey to process and certify gold ore in the face of US sanctions. Trade between the two countries has more than doubled over the last 5 years. Reports suggest that the Maduro government decided to move gold refining from Switzerland to Turkey in order to avoid the risk of Venezuelan assets being seized in following a possible US sanction. Against this backdrop, Venezuela exported 23.6 tons of gold worth $900 million to Turkey in the first 9 months of 2018. Moreover, Turkey has recently started to supply the basic products for Venezuela's government-subsidized food program CLAP, appearing to create a gold for food mechanism between Ankara and Caracas.
Our friend Edgar Şar did an interview with Associate Professor Mehmet Özkan yesterday on Turkish foreign policy and the Venezuelan crisis.
I think that the crisis in Venezuela creates a foreign policy opportunity for Turkey. President Erdogan is apparently one of the remaining leaders who can talk to Maduro, so Turkey can play the role of a mediator between Venezuela and other states in the region. This is a serious diplomatic opportunity for Turkey, if it makes use of it. If not, Turkey might also pursue the wait-and-see policy, but in that case, the crisis may become a systemic one with the engagement of Russia, which would then mean that Turkey misses the opportunity to play a proactive role in this crisis. Some experts claim that Turkey has been undermining the international system by violating the sanctions against Venezuela, as it once did with Iran. So I think Turkey has to turn its position into an advantage, because Erdogan is apparently the only leader who can talk to both the US and Maduro. Furthermore, as Turkey has been providing a significant volume of food aid and diplomatic support, Erdogan is able to exert pressure on Maduro. So, I think it's worth for Turkey to try it. Otherwise, once Russia is engaged, it would be too late for Turkey to play a role.
Joining us today to talk about Turkey and the Venezuelan crisis is Evren Çelik Wiltse, who is an associate professor of political science at South Dakota State University, and her research focuses on Latin America and the Middle East. Good afternoon, Professor Wiltse. Welcome to This Week in Turkey.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
As we've just heard in the previous news videos, a serious constitutional crisis is currently unfolding in Venezuela as President Nicolas Maduro has been effectively embattled after opposition leader Juan Guaido's interim presidency has been recognized by a number of states, most notably led by the US. But the question is, why is President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the leader of a country that is thousands of kilometers away from Venezuela, so eager to stand beside Maduro in this crisis. In other words, what exactly is Turkey's concern with Venezuela here?
Now I lost connection.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Were you able to catch my question, or should I repeat it?
No, excellent. Maybe a better, someone in the Turkish administration is probably a better person to handle that question. What is the administration thinking to get engaged so intimately? But I think Turkey has been trying to help, because as much as this is a constitutional crisis at the moment, there has been a building up humanitarian crisis for an extended period of time now. And Turkey has been an actor trying to elevate some of that humanitarian distress by sending aid, by providing transportation, providing logistical help to Venezuela and Venezuelan people. And it's a global world. I think it's not fair to ask why you are involved, why is China involved? So everyone has some interest. And what we need to do here is we need to distinguish between benign actors that are interested in Venezuelan crisis versus some malignant actors, actors that have different agendas and different contradictory interests that are contradictory to the Venezuelan people. So in that regard, and sometimes the confusing thing is, like, sometimes these malignant actors, some step that they take, may be, similar to. So what I'm trying to get at is the Turkish involvement is not abnormal. Turkey does have extensive diplomatic relations now with all of Latin America. Lots of embassies, lots of connections, and is trying to build a reputation, build a constituency, and improve economic relations. So it's not a surprise that Turkey is getting involved. But again, the trick here is: are you helping, or are you making the process more complicated and more difficult and more harder for the Venezuelans to deal with? So you're basically are you part of the solution, or are you just escalating the crisis?
So as you've just mentioned, diplomatic relations between Turkey and not only Venezuela, but numerous other Latin American countries have been developing lately. But surely diplomatic relations aren't the only point of interest here. We've been told, we've been reading actually through reports that there's a substantial amount of trade going on between Turkey and Venezuela. And most of these reports focus on the gold trade between the two countries. Could you explain a bit further for our viewers about what's happening trade-wise between Turkey and Venezuela, and specifically with regard to gold trade?
Yes. So again, I'm a political scientist, but I have to look at, money is power, trade is power. So as political scientists, we have to pay attention to global trade and the trends in global trade. So the problem with gold is, so think about the Venezuelan economy has been reduced to only raw materials, just extraction of raw materials. And about 80–90% of that raw material is petroleum, as everyone suddenly now discovered about the Venezuelan economy. So there's a quick course everyone is studying. So bulk of it is oil. But the other remaining part, 10% or so, is gold. And you can't eat gold. You need to put it in the global markets, get the credit for it, and then go shopping. So the simplest way I can explain is that Venezuela has to put its gold into the global markets and use it as cash, as credit, to buy other things that it needs. And it needs everything. If a country cannot produce anything on its own, it has to buy everything from outside. So, but why are they not able to do this? They used to do this through Switzerland, okay, the global bank and cash machine of the entire world. Why are the Swiss not willing to process their gold anymore? Well, we need to look at how that gold gets to Switzerland. So the political degeneration, the political collapse in Venezuela has created an increasingly dysfunctional system there, where the military right now controls all these raw material assets. A general controls the national oil company, the generals control the gold mining sites. So essentially you have this, a small group of people with arms who have controlled the national assets, and they're cashing those assets in. They're selling the royalties from oil to China. China is now a big shareholder of Venezuelan oil. And with gold, they are digging up the mines in an extremely exploitative way, surface mining. So they're plundering their own national assets and trying to turn it into cash in international markets. And the international markets that therefore sanction these. So we know there is sanctions, but we never look at why those sanctions are. The sanctions are because gold is controlled by the Venezuelan military, and it only goes into the pockets of the generals. It doesn't help the people. So therefore the sanctions. So what Turkey then is doing is opening this back channel to trade in this gold in the international markets. And that is not good for Turkish economy. The banking sector needs to keep its discipline, its reputation in the world. And once you have this reputation that you are some backdoor channel for these illicit gains, the gold trade now with Venezuela is considered illicit by majority of the world countries. Brazil also has a lot of mines. Brazil also has number 8th or 9th largest economy in the world. Why are they not helping? They're right next door. Because it's risky. You are associating yourself with some very, very rogue, very, very problematic actors by helping them with the gold trade. So I really hope that, but on the other hand, they need some money to feed their people. So there is, I understand that there are humanitarian concerns on the Turkish side, but with every help, you should try to not hurt as you're trying to help. The intentions could be good, but in the long run, you might be just extending the lifeline of a very abusive regime. So I would caution those risks. There is risk of extending a very abusive military regime because the military controls so many ministries. So now, it's, you think, the Turkish public opinion is only looking at the top person, but half of his cabinet is generals. They are in charge of the economy, they are in charge of the interior ministry, they are in charge of the mines. So what kind of a civilian elected regime are we talking about, really? It's not. So it's very, very problematic, it's very risky. But again, a lot of the countries in the region are distressed by seeing Venezuelans in such desperate shape. Who wants to see hungry people dying out of hunger? So I think Turkey is trying to help with provide some kind of humanitarian assistance, but in the process, Turkey has to be extra cautious too.
We're actually running out of time, but let's wrap up with a final question. Some analysts in Turkey, Mehmet Özkan to name one, who joined us for another Turkish language interview yesterday here at Mediascope, argue that Turkey's close ties with Maduro may in fact offer a foreign policy advantage for Turkey, whereby Turkey could play the role of a mediator between the Maduro government and the US. Would you agree with this kind of an analysis?
Well, they choose their countries in conflict, they choose their own arbitrators. So it's great if the Venezuelans agree on who they want this process to be negotiated through. To be a mediator, the one important quality is to kind of not be neutral, but at least be perceived as neutral by all parties So that's why, for example, all of these peace deals, all of that stuff like takes place in places like Switzerland or Norway. Norway is like, you know, we want to help everyone. So by Turkey showing such strong support for Maduro first, and then saying we're going to arbitrate, we're going to negotiate or be the mediator for settlement of this crisis, it's contradicting, okay? So what Turkey needs to do is maybe distance a little bit from Maduro and just kind of give him the benefit of doubt. Like, maybe this guy is not too good, but we want to help all sides. We want to help all sides. So that's why, for example, you look at the countries, Uruguay and Mexico, even though bulk of the Latin American countries, the big ones, the really sizable ones, instantly recognize this new guy. But there are some that kind of remained caution. They did not instantly, automatically gave support to Maduro, but they said, well, we don't support Maduro either, but this doesn't look like, you know, everything is working out in the country. Clearly, there is a crisis that we recognize, and we would be happy to sit with all the parties involved and maybe chart the future. So you need to extend the olive branch to all parties, not just say, this is my guy, and then try to, you know, convince the others to sit at the table with you, because then they won't sit at the table with you. You will be a biased party. No one sits to negotiate with a biased party.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wiltse, for joining us today and for your comments.
You're welcome. Happy to be.
Today we were joined by Evren Çelik Wiltse, who commented on Turkey's position with regard to the government crisis in Venezuela. And now we'll continue with our next news video. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Russian President Vladimir Putin held their first face-to-face meeting of 2019 on Wednesday.
Turkey will continue strengthening cooperation with Russia in Syria. Russia and Turkey will continue joint fight against terrorism in Idlib in order to guarantee security for Syrian population, Erdogan said in a joint news conference in Moscow. It is critically important that a vacuum during the US withdrawal from Syria, which can be exploited by terrorists, doesn't form, Erdogan said. The US will take measures on threatening regions, which is 30 kilometers deep in Syria. We are on the same page with Russia on this topic, he added. Russian President Putin also said on the same issue that the US forces' withdrawal from Syria will become a positive step and stabilize the situation in the country's northeast. Russia supports a dialogue between Damascus and representatives of the Kurds within the context of a declared US withdrawal from Syria, Putin also stressed. This dialogue will contribute to consolidation of the Syrian society, and national reconciliation will be used not only for Syria, but for all neighboring states as well, Putin said. Erdogan said Turkish ministers and officials have held negotiations on a safe zone in northern Syria, adding, sensitivity of the regions that threaten us is of great importance. In addition, Putin noted that in 10 months of 2018, the Russian-Turkish trade turnover increased more than all of the previous years. He also said that the growth in the number of Russian tourists, which reached a record figure of 6 million, shows how the citizens of their countries perceive the change in the nature and quality of Russian-Turkish relations. Putin also praised the development of Russian-Turkish cooperation in 2018 and said the trade turnover between the two countries shows further growth.
The 10-year challenge hashtag on social media has led to a trend among Turkish Twitter users this week, where women shared photos of themselves before and after removing their headscarves.
Turkish women who quit wearing headscarves adopted the 10-year challenge trend on social media to talk about the reasons behind their decision. The headscarf issue has long been a controversial and politicized subject in Turkey, as headscarves were banned in public institutions for years and students were not allowed to go to university wearing headscarves. However, over the past decade under President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the ban has gradually been lifted. Secularists see the headscarf as a symbol of religious politics and conservatism and accuse Erdogan's government of pursuing a religious agenda. I am a 10-year-old in this photo. I am a kid going to primary school. All my headscarf photos are passport photos, because at the time I used to believe that getting one's photo taken was a sin. So I only got passport photos taken for things such as identity cards, one woman said in a tweet. Another woman said, "We have become liberated, and this has nothing to do with our family or environment. Our thoughts about ourselves and what we can do have become liberated. We have cleared ourselves of all the norms imposed by religion. We did not play the role that was expected from us. We became ourselves." Meanwhile, veteran journalist and well-known secularist intellectual Mine Kırıkkanat warned her Twitter followers on Saturday that she thought the intensive photos of women taking off their headscarves could be a manipulation by the Gülen movement. Kırıkkanat's claims created a backlash on Twitter, as many users criticized her for downplaying the sincerity of the trend.
Veteran theater and cinema actress Ayşen Guruda died on Wednesday at the age of 74. That's all from This Week in Turkey. Thanks for tuning in and hope to see you again next Friday at 5 p.m. Goodbye.